Oi, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my humble, abode? Couch? Chair? I don't know, maybe a fucking futon? Whatever, welcome to the home of the meth. Last time we talked about the badassery of this slim, thick femme fatale.
Man, it's getting hot in here. I hope you don't mind I unbutton a couple buttons here.
And how in the franchise Metroid, she just kicks ass with disturbing looking fucked up creatures in a franchise inspired by H.R. Geiger's Alien. And I always welcome something spooky in this month, but what if Super Metroid was only the beginning? What if the next game, Samus was no longer about a badass female protagonist, but the embodiment of lonesome, dreadful danger? Metroid Fusion was one of the first games I owned in the Game Boy Advance. I still have the same Game Boy Advance in black color, and the same cartridge inserted into it in the cupboard in my desk. That's how much love I had for this game. I spent countless pages of old European guides to read about this game in certain gaming magazines, which did jack shit, but let's move on. While Super Metroid gave way to the exploration genre in a way that isolation would become a main staple for the genre, you see nowadays games like Axiom Verge, Hollow Knight, Ori, and the new Millennium Castlevania games. Oh yeah, I forgot to say, the genre nowadays for some fucking reason is called Metroidvania, because both Metroid and Castlevania started to do the same shit. Like, fuck's sake, it's the exploration genre. Don't matter how you fucking call it, it's just isolation exploration. You could call it a Metroid style game, but at the end of the day, it's like Metroid. Super Metroid made it! Period! But the essence of the genre makes for anyone that plays any of these games is lonely, anxious, questionable, and never ever having the sense that you are alone at all. That something is always lurking, watching, or rather, hiding. I would have added Dust and Elysian Tale, but fuck's sake, that game is beautiful and joyful and it has nothing to do with isolation. Though it's depressing as fuck, just if you are very emotionally driven, don't play it. Trust me, it's a wonderful game, but don't play it. I love it. And then you get Metroid Fusion. Fusion's main title is just basic, but it leaves the impression as if this is not a Metroid game. While Metroid in the Super Nintendo's title screen was unsettling and strange, Fusion's is ominous, enigmatic. It just sets you in for the fucked up prologue. Oh, by the way, how is this game rated E for everyone? Oh, you question my questioning? Well, let me tell you, bud.
I'm not your buddy, friend. He's not your friend, guy. I'm not your guy, buddy. He's not your buddy, friend. I'm not your friend, guy.
You get into an exploration with a group of... what the fuck are these guys? I don't know, just call them Jeffs. Yeah, they're Jeffs. Jeff and Jeff too, whatever the fuck. And then you get assaulted in the worst kind. Scary tension, stripping, PTSD, schizophrenia, stalking, and my favorite, human experimentation on humans gone wrong to twisted, disturbing sides. Fuck yeah, that's my cup of tea. Fusion's theme is not lighthearted at all. Jumping in, I always knew I was interested, but I did not know it would be quite interesting in its heavy undertones. Samus being a hero of the galaxy now helps to retrieve a certain kind of species of being that could be useful to developments of medical evolution. And then you realize this thing is fucking predatory as fuck. It latches onto Samus, it entangles her and almost kills her, leaving her with a sense of near-death experience, plus is forced to have little to no armor, removing most of her super armor surgically, and now surviving with small bits of her zero suit and parts of her body now becoming a bit more monstrous. And that is because Samus was injected with the DNA from the same creatures she eradicated, the Metroids. Having this DNA made her survive the now infamous X-Parasite, a virulent parasitic entity that can assimilate and or copy its host and multiply it with incredibly horrible results. It's fucking copy-paste the monster. And we can tell that this time they had inspiration from The Thing. First it was H.R. Geiger, and now it's John Carpenter. What is going on, Nintendo? Is this something you want to talk about? Are you having a phase?
I don't have to listen to you, Viego. You're not my real dad.
As you walk off and explore, you notice that this facility that you always thought would be the safe haven to rest after a new adventure now was overrun. And when you encounter creatures, the one thing you should know, most of these were once human. The creatures here are not monsters from hostile planets, no, or the space pirates. These were created by humans with genetical alteration from cloning, wanting to repopulate planets or use their genes to create more advancements for medical field, but instead they made creatures that far exceed the capacities of Samus. And let's remember one thing that I forgot to actually mention, and one thing that is very engraven to you when you play it, and it was engraven to me the first time I played it. Samus is no longer powerful. She is handicapped, broken both physically and mentally. And the only company you hold is a little mobile AI that, because of the way it speaks to Samus, she calls it Adam, like her old mentor in the academy that she used to have a crush on. You fucking weeb. Crippled Samus is quite a hinge exploration. Finding out that her capacities are limited, her weaponry will be upgraded thanks to the leftover weapons. The addition to be able to consume parasite pieces in order to upgrade your current suit is a fucking necessity. Ignore them and your death shall be imminent. I would know. Just don't judge me. I was a dumbass. You need all the parasite pieces all the time whenever you can to become a decent Samus. But other than that, you are a bitch. And this is the scary part. Everything else is out there to kill you. There is little to no room for rest. You have to look out for every corner. There is something always watching you, and something else in the room always willing to kill you. If you underestimate it, you will regret it. And that pumps up the stress tenfold. And the worst part, that is not even the last of it. When I left the medical station, I felt ready for combat. Not safe, but ready. And then after a bit, I felt like the music was preparing me for something, but I didn't know what. It played with my senses. And then, silence. One thing you should know. The parasite did not just try to kill Samus. It tried to fucking use her body in many ways, even genetically. And when you come across the elevator, you see the result that came from the deep rooting from this music and the body of Samus Aran. The SAX is the embodiment of pure unadulterated violence in full sci-fi. It chases you and stalks you around. It follows your steps, using the same weaponry you held from Super Metroid to make you feel like the creatures you had been chasing and eradicating until now. And the feeling you get when she chases you, or rather, it chases you, is anxiety at its fullest. You cannot kill it. You cannot damage it. You can only do one thing. Run and hope for the best. The worst spot is when you encounter SAS, these dark halls with no light, and then you see it walking very slowly, just trying to search. And sometimes you can feel like if you move just one single muscle, it will fucking destroy everything in its way to kill you. And sometimes it will find you and chase you, and you have to run and hope you can lose it. Fuck, that was stressful for me. It follows ain't got shit on this game. But the worst part is that if you explore and open the areas of this facility, you encounter now the famed space pirates now trying to have revenge on you for killing Ridley. But the worst part is you encounter a fucked up clone of Ridley created by the X virus parasite. and his screeches make it so fucking harrowing. It is an auditory depiction of how Samus feels the presence of Ridley. It haunts her, and even if that dragon is not the real Ridley, to her it is the real as the original. And that is the most harrowing thing about Samus. She is very vulnerable. You learn to see how much she deals with it. The guilt of her past, and how leaving the academy to become a bounty hunter just for survival. Not to be a badass, but just because she had no choice. And realizing that her only friend was now an AI. That reminded her of how lonely her life had become until now. And the only things that she cared about always died in front of her. The guilt is what has eaten her up to the motivation of becoming who she is. But today, that is all for naught. The more exploration means the more secrets to unfold, and more lore. And among those is the fact that the X-Parasite virus is a natural prey to the Metroids. They kept this being at bay in balance, but because fucking humans tempered with nature, now it has fucking spread through the planet, and then you learn that the facility is not only doing medical research for humans, but also experimented on gene mutation for the Metroid gene to the point of cloning them. And then you keep hiding from the SAX, running, and it's chasing you constantly, and then you realize why it's going so rampant against you. It wishes to eradicate anything that involves the Metroids, including you, dear Samus, that now has Metroid DNA. Oh jolly, it's Christmas, ain't it?
If there is one thing I had learned as a reindeer of hard present type, it is that I be glad that you die.
But we don't have time to shed tears. We don't have time to shiver in fear. We only have time to gather all the weapons we can, all the upgrades we can, and hope that we can fight back.
God damn. I'll give you this D because you deserve it.
So after finding all of these secrets, how Samus feels, how the world works, and how one of the most fucked up creatures I have seen in my life, what the fuck is that?
Give me a hug.
Yeah, this game doesn't hold back. But finally, I am able to face the SAX. I have gathered all the weapons, all the upgrades I could, and now I can finally fight it, one-on-one. And finally, I have overcome it just to find out it was a copy. Oh boy, it has multiplied. Now, this is the thing. It reproduced not only your abilities, but the technology in the suit and the facility. It is smarter than any threat Samus has ever faced. And now threatens not only the galaxy, but possibly the entire universe if it goes free. We cannot allow this. and just got all the power-ups, defeated all the copies of the SAX, and finally you're ready to face the original. And then you arrive to the nucleus of the facility to find all the clone Metroids, and the SAX finally arriving to try to eradicate him, and just realize how powerful still the Metroids are. And then you realize the conflict between the X-Virus parasite and the Metroids, and how even worse the Metroids are still a threat to the galaxy, and finally see one of the most famed forms, an Omega Metroid. Metroids can evolve into different forms depending on their environment, and the Omega is one of the most primal and beastly forms. And as the battle alongside with the SAX, it just shows how much of a fucking dreadful threat they can be. But once the X-Parasite is eradicated, you can get back your full suit and finally weigh on this beast like it's in Super Metroid.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age!
And finally, you can escape. Everything is now behind you, and that nightmare is over. But my favorite part of this entire adventure wasn't just the battles, it was the atmosphere. Metroid Fusion really pushes your patience on the most intense moments, and you truly feel like you could fuck up at any moment. But when you overcome this entire nightmare, you feel on top of a world. And when you finally have a breather is when you beat the game. And when you beat it, the faster your time, the hotter Samus looks in her suit. I did not know Samus was a Victoria's Secret model that was also a biker. And honestly, to this day, I still love and feel the chills from this fucking game. The music, the visuals, the sound cues, the story. It all comes to a fucking close that just makes you feel like a true horror movie choreographed in a game. That sense of dread is necessary for a horror game to work, and this one was one of my favorite experiences with a franchise that really needed it. And while in most games the fanbase sees Samus in this unyielding power and the embodiment of the franchise, Fusion truly helps make the fanbase depict it as it is. Looking so twisted, horror, monstrous, like something that came out of a true H.R. Geiger project. And it's fucking beautiful. I am not the biggest Metroid fan, far from it. But possibly because my first experience with Metroid was in a first-person shooter, and honestly, those are not my full cup of tea. Sometimes they can be very enjoyable, but not all the time. But when I was in Smash Bros. Brawl, and was able to experience Super Metroid for the first time, for just a little glimpse, it opened my eyes to the 2D Metroid games, which are my more beloved ones. Even the fan community creating some of the most beloved projects independently. Hell, the indie development industry that does Metroidvania games always plays homage to Metroid, because at the end of the day, this franchise paved the way for an entire genre, reforged it, reimagined it, and it made it feel more alive than it has ever been in the last few years. And now with the most recent sequel, Metroid Dread, which I do plan on playing, it shows that the long-awaited sequel to Metroid Fusion really was the far cry the community was asking for. After having success with another 2D Metroid game, Nintendo finally brought the next horror experience of the franchise, even with a new suit feeling similar to Fusion's. So when the time comes, I will be waiting, Metroid, and I will be shivering and shaking with a pleasure through your harrowing halls of isolation, along the side of the most respected and feared woman in gaming. Until the next time, Nintendo. But until then, I shall be waiting in the same spot, the same October, and with the same excitement.